Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm Slava P here with some more tips and tricks to survive prison in Canada. I did 3 years in a federal and a provincial facility, and I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about staying in touch with the outside world. So there's two different sets of rules to remember depending on whether or not you're in provincial jail or a federal facility. The one consistent thing about both of these locations is you're going to have to remember a lot of phone numbers. Not just people that you want to call, but you're going to need to remember things like your access code, your PIN number, and of course, the phone numbers themselves. You actually get these books from the chapel, which end up becoming very useful, and you're actually able to buy something a little bit more thick from the holiday bag if you end up staying that long. Let's start with provincial. The main thing to remember with provincial is that the phones that are on the range cannot dial out to a cell phone. They can only dial out to a landline. I'm not sure why it's done this way, and you better believe that there's a lot of workarounds that people have been able to figure out. But for the most part, if you intend on staying for a substantial amount of time in provincial, make sure your people on the outside get a landline. Sure, you could probably call a landline and then they can three-way a cell phone, but if those three beeps are detected, the phone will shut off automatically. I've also heard of workarounds using things like those telephone cards that people use to dial back home, but things always change, and Bell systems and CSC always adapt to make sure that you're not getting away with something that you shouldn't. So I'm not sure if I could advise you on any tips because they might not be relevant by the time you find yourself in jail. For the most part, though, provincial only dials out to a landline. In terms of visiting, it's actually much easier to visit someone who's doing time in a provincial facility than it is a federal one. In fact, there's no forms that you have to fill out or paperwork that needs to be done. The person that wants to visit you just calls ahead, maybe a day or two before, and gives your name and the reason for visiting them. When that person shows up in the jail, all they have to do is go to the front desk, give their name and a piece of ID, like a driver's license or a health card, and they can see you almost right away. This also means that it's very easy to drop money off for people who find themselves in a provincial facility because anybody can come and visit and anybody can drop money off. The downside to this is that there are no touch visits in a provincial facility. It is exactly what you have seen in movies where there's a big piece of plexiglass between you and the visitor and a little hole through which you can talk and put your hand up against if you want to be dramatic. During COVID, I think that they were actually doing a lot of video visits using a telecommunication system that was on the range. I'm not sure if this has continued to go on now that COVID's over. I have a feeling that CSC has taken every opportunity to keep a lot of the restrictions put in place during COVID alive because it makes their job easier. But just remember that if you're in provincial, you're not getting any contact visits at all because they're worried about people smuggling contraband. As if they need contact visits to do that. You just put the weed in your butt. Now, federal is a lot different. Once you find yourself in federal, be prepared to be doing a lot of paperwork. I think I wrote more by hand while I was in a federal facility for that 3 years than I had in my entire life. So the phone systems in Canada are operated by Bell Canada, and Bell Canada has made it so that you're restricted to using the phone for 2 hours per day. Each phone call to a local number costs you about $4 an hour. So you're going to be spending around $8 per day on phone calls if you intend on using the maximum amount of time available to you. Putting money on your phone card is another set of bureaucracy that I'm not going to get into now, but you have to fill out a little blue form on a certain schedule to make sure that your money is even on the phone card. Once you do get that phone card, it'll have a PIN and a voice recognition system on it to make sure that you're the only person that could use your phone number. So your PIN number is something that you're going to have to enter before every phone call. It's about 6 digits. Some people it's shorter. And that's definitely one of the numbers, along with your FPS, that you are going to be committing to memory. And if you can't commit it to memory, these books are free from the chapel. So to contact someone once you're in federal, you need to add them to your phone list. You add them to your phone list by filling out a contact form that you then send in to the warden, who approves it and adds that person to your list. It's pretty easy to add people on the list because all you have to do is give their name and number, and then they get a call from the facility asking them if they can confirm who they are and that they want to be added to your phone list. It depends on how long this takes, but you could be waiting anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months to actually get someone added to your phone list once you get into a federal facility. So I suggest that you get on that right away and start adding people to your phone card as soon as possible, because the people that you talk to in provincial will not automatically be transferred over to your federal phone card. It's a whole new process that you have to start over again. Very convenient. Now, the good news is that in federal, you actually get touch visits, okay? Your people can come in and see you, hug you, do all that stuff. But the problem is that they have to get approved to do that, which means that they have to fill out a CPIC form, which means that the Canadian government will have to look through their past dealings and criminal record to see if they're even approved to be on your list. I've heard instances of guys whose dad can't come visit them because he has a criminal record. Once that person is approved, they can visit you in a variety of ways. The most common one when I was there was the video visit because, like I said, I was there during COVID. And the video visit gives you about an hour every weekend or during the week, with which you can talk to your people on the outside using a service called WebEx. It's kind of like Zoom or Google Hangouts or Microsoft Teams or whatever you use. This one is specifically WebEx. Your people get a link, I think, a week before or like a few days before, and an invitation to attend. And the day of the event, you get called down to VNC and you get put in front of the screen. You put on the headphones. Someone behind the desk punches in the web address and connects you that way. It's important to remember that the way that your video visit goes depends a lot on who's working VNC. I've seen some guys get punished because the person that they were talking to had a moving background. For example, they were in a car while they were taking the call, and apparently that's not allowed. You're also not allowed to have other people on the video who are not on your approved list. I think children are exempt from that, but you can't have a brother or a friend or a cousin pop in on the video call while you're having it. Otherwise, the call will get terminated completely. So if you do decide to do something like that, make sure to save it for the last 5 minutes of your call. Now, the other thing to remember about federal facility is that in addition to all of those visits, once someone gets on your approved contacts list, they can engage in something called a private family visit or a PFV. A PFV is the Canadian version of a conjugal visit. It includes your significant other or your family members coming to the facility for the weekend to spend time with you in a private trailer. These trailers are actually pretty well maintained because they are the way that the facility intends to present itself to the outside world. And as a result, they're not going to make them shitty on purpose. Once you get your people approved on that phone list, you're able to have a PFV with them once every 6 weeks. After your first PFV goes successfully and they can see that you didn't try to bring in any contraband, you put yourself on a standby list in case somebody else's PFV drops out at the last second. They will let you know and ask if you want to bring your people up. You can do things like bring the kids and have like solid family time with everybody in your unit. And as a result of that, these are very popular. And obviously you can do other stuff with your significant other while you're there. You have a queen size bed and they actually change out the sheets to like hypoallergenic ones. So it's one of the rare instances in your federal bid where you will get a chance to sleep on a queen size mattress, because other than that, it is double land. Obviously, you should not be bringing contraband into the jail, although a lot of people do take advantage of the PFVs to do just that. But there's a lot of things that you can get away with during your PFV that will make your time a lot easier. For example, your people can bring in DVDs that you can watch on the DVD players that are provided to every range in the facility. And a fun fact is that a box set of DVDs only counts as one DVD. You can only bring 10 DVDs per visit, but if you bring 10 box sets and take them back with you, it counts as 10 individual DVDs. Getting a box set of DVDs is the best way to do your time. I distinctly remember a couple weeks in February where I just binged The Sopranos from start to finish, and my time has never gone smoother. Obviously, there's certain things they can't bring. They can't bring food. They can't bring an excessive amount of toys. but they can bring you clothing that you can swap out, things like underwear, things like socks that have become a little ratty after use. You can get those swapped out. And things like hygiene products, shampoos or toothpastes that aren't available on Canteen. That said, there's not a lot that isn't available on Canteen. So only if you have like the most discerning tastes when it comes to lotion and deodorant will that become of use to you. So if you get approved for a PFV, you get called down to the trailer around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and then your people show up around 10 or 30 or 11. So they kind of get escorted down to the trailer, which is a separate section from the jail itself, which means that, individuals who are incarcerated will not be interacting with your family and your children. Don't worry about that. And then they have to actually surrender their phone in a little locker that gets locked up at the front desk. If they want to check their phone throughout the weekend, they have to walk up to the front desk, get their phone, check it there on the spot, and then leave it there again. No phones can come into the PFE, unfortunately. So that's pretty much how staying in contact with the outside world works when you're in jail. If you guys have any specific questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Once again, it's Slava P here with another jail story. Like, comment, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. You know what to do. Bye.